Okay, can you all see the?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Mel, if you don't mind, if you can start recording, please. Okay. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. This is a meeting of the Museum Park Park and Benefit District Advisory Committee. Today is August 17th. I'm Rami. I'm filling in for Maria. So on the agenda today, I understand prior to the meeting that I don't think we have a quorum, so there won't be any voting or anything going on. I'm just going to provide a quick financial update and a quick rundown of some project proposals, and then it's just an open forum for the rest of the meeting. Okay, so for the income statement, we just completed the first month of the new fiscal year. So the numbers are before you for July. This is very typical of what we have seen over the last few months. So I nothing really to point out here except that the numbers are pretty strong coming in for July as they have been for the last few months. I do want to mention something really quick about the expired meter citations. I understand there's obviously a bit of fluctuations, and we'll see that on the next slide. But we are working on providing slightly better coverage in the area, and we'll see how that goes. So hopefully we can kind of have a bit more of just a flat line when it comes to the expired meter citations that are issued in the area, because I did see a little bit of fluctuations from month to month. Any questions on this income statement for the month of July? Obviously, the last column for projections, it's still very early, but it's pretty much a straight line. So if things hold up around those averages for the rest of the fiscal year, then the payout should be even better than it was this very last fiscal year. And please forgive the red at the bottom here. Obviously, these are formulas, and so since we're very early in the year, it's still adding up to the threshold of $524,000. So, any questions on this before I move on? Okay. Okay, so again, meter revenue was pretty strong in the area. Transactions are holding pretty steady. The average transaction is obviously pretty steady, as you can see on the screen. And it has been like that actually for quite a while. I think the previous fiscal year was hovering around anywhere between 3.5 to 3.7, so it's right around that. And I've already touched on the expired meter citations. I will keep an eye on it going forward, just to try to get to a level where it's rather consistent from month to month. Any questions on this slide?
Rami, just an aside, the average transaction, does that represent 2.5 hours? Or I'm sorry, I've forgotten how much parking is.
I think it's Melanie, help me out with this, or Holt. Is it 3 hours in the area, or is it 2 hours?
That's a 4 hour. Yeah, it's a 4 hour area, Run.
But the average transactions is the total revenue divided by the number of transactions.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Kathleen. I didn't realize that was your question. Melanie is absolutely right. So this number is basically this divided by this.
I see.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions on this before I move on?
Thank you for keeping an eye on the expired meters.
Yeah, sure. I mean, of course, there's always going to be a little bit of variation based on coverage and what have you, and what we actually can find and cannot find out there. But we like to see it a little bit more consistent, to where it's not, going from 30 to 64 back to 30 to 60. So we just and back to it seems like we're off and on. So we'll try to see if we can get it a little bit more consistent.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, So there were a few notes that were sent about potential proposals for projects. One is the softscape maintenance, and I think Kathleen, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this at all that you want to share with the committee.
Did that come from me?
No, this came from Nikki.
What is that? What does softscape maintenance mean?
So these are, this is what I understand, these are areas that were previously planted by the neighborhood association that need some attention.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, actually, yeah, the management district, Jillian, you may be able to respond to this. They were actually out here last week doing the maintenance. So I don't know. They were doing some softscape on the end cap gardens.
Okay. Do you know how many locations are they looking at or anything like that?
No, I think we've got maybe 14 of those gardens, but I didn't know anything about it. I just went outside one morning and there was Houston, the management district. It was a pleasant surprise, but I wasn't sure how that was being paid for.
So my understanding from the notes, Kathleen, is that the district has taken on watering, using watering trucks at those intersections and the trees. I have a note here that the monthly cost is approximately $680 a month, and this just became effective less than 2 weeks ago. So
What is that? What's that for?
what's what for?
That $684. So it's
That's
water.
I guess that's the cost for the watering trucks to come around and water. It's a monthly cost, $680, and the district, looks like the district is paying for that.
Well, that's very, very nice of them, but I mean, who authorized that?
I
No,
don't know.
I think Nikki means at the current time, South Beach Management District is paying for that, but this may be
Yeah.
a project that the advisory committee could assume.
Oh, I see. I see. So
Correct,
they're
correct.
thinking
Yes,
right now and
yes,
are asking us to consider taking it on.
correct,
Okay.
correct.
Well, I guess we need some sort of a number of locations that they're addressing and specifically what they're doing. We
Sure.
need sort of a proposal from them.
Yeah. I do have a note here, Kathleen, that, and I guess these are, initial numbers. If the committee decides to invest in this, it looks like there's a $5,000 charge for, I guess, the initial consultation and design, and then about a $1,500 to $2,000 a month per intersection to mulch, put new plants down, water, etc. So that's what we have here from the notes. That kind of gives you an idea of how much the cost would be. It looks like the cost would run $1,500 to $2,000 a month after the initial investment.
Yeah, again, this is new and I'd love
Sure.
to see some details on that.
Yeah, that's sounding more like a design plan. Like I think we've mentioned before, like a cohesive design of the end caps. That's what that sounds like. That's leaning toward. And but
That's correct.
is that something that the neighborhood association reached out about, or do you have any idea?
I don't know, Melanie, do you know any? I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, but we can go ahead.
That'd be good to know. Because like I said, that I was really glad to see them out
Yeah.
there because they really cleaned up these. I mean, they pruned and weeded and did a lot of work, but I was surprised. So I'd like to see, I think we'd all like to see some details on what's being proposed or what they'd like us to consider.
Sure. We
Kyle,
can.
sorry, but Kyle's the new senior director of maintenance operations at Herman Park. Moving up from director, is there anything else you can think of that we should be thinking about?
What, as far as projects or that particular one?
That particular, I mean, the details that we need. I just think we need the number of locations and what particular tasks are being proposed and materials that are needed.
Yeah, I think that for sure the number of current locations, the number of any locations that we as a neighborhood or super neighborhood want to consider adopting in addition to. I know that there's been conversations just over the years, and then with the Caroline Promenade and the Livable Center study, with the ideas of those end caps, just that truly treating them all as a whole project and incorporating that into the same thing with what the even the Southeast Management District has already started to design and implement with the traffic calming beds too. That if they're connected to that in a way to where I think that would be extremely beneficial rather than doing something without thinking of those things or using those same plant palettes.
Yeah, in isolation. Now, I think those are very valid points. Well, I guess we need to circle back with the management district and get some details on that. Amy, do you have any thoughts on?
Nope, nothing. Just
Okay. But I hear what Kyle's saying is that they may be looking at an overall design that pulls everything together cohesively so that they don't have to all match or look exactly the same, but
right,
similar appearance or a cohesive feel.
Yeah. Okay, we will take that back and provide the information as we get them for that.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, the other idea that was passed along was for minor sidewalk repairs. So Southern Concrete raising the company that they provide, I guess, sidewalk leveling and repair work. They have done, it looks like they've done some panels in the area already. The district did those back in 2021 for under $10,000. And it looks like they're holding up well. So the idea here is, would the committee be interested in an investment of the same to kind of keep that minor sidewalk repair going? Any thoughts around that?
I think it would be kind of the same thing, needing additional information about that. Or I guess, are they just asking, if this is even something on the table to consider before trying to find additional information?
I think that is part of it. Before they go out and get the information or what have you, I don't know if that's something that the PPD would even consider at all or would find beneficial. So, we're just kind of trying to gather some thoughts and see what you guys think.
I mean, personally, I think that we're in a state of assessment right now, like
Okay.
as the museum park neighborhood. I mean, you guys, say what y'all think too, of course, but I feel like that, really without knowing for sure, like how many repairs are there that need to be done and to what degree, and then is this going to even impact it at all, or is just doing one little thing going to cause, is it going to just be a drop in the bucket, or is it something that can be phased out and addressed in that direction? But I think though,
Sure.
assessing what needs to be done and then determining how much it's going to cost and then figuring out the project plan of how to get those things corrected is kind of a direction that we would need to go, rather than just saying, oh yeah, we'll do minor sidewalk repairs.
Yeah, and be strategic about it. The good news is we have a start in I can't remember, it was the Caroline Promenade or the Livable Center study, but SWA did a good job of assessing the sidewalks and their condition on, maybe it was just Caroline. I guess it was just Caroline. But until we kind of have some idea of what the scale is and prioritizing the critical path and what's going to be most impactful.
I mean, that's similar to the arbor care that that we've started too, doing the
Sure.
initial assessment and then which ones are the most risk trees and treating those first and then moving on from there.
Okay. So speaking of arbor care, the note that I have here is that they did reach out for an update on a proposal that's supposed to be coming from Bartlett, and unfortunately, as of right now, there has been no update provided. But I don't know if you all had any additional thoughts on that I can pass along to the district or not, but it looks like they're still waiting on the final assessment on that.
Well, I don't know. My thought on the arbor care was that we had asked, or I think Nikki asked Bartlett for a proposal
Yes.
for an assessment of the other esplanades for 23-24, the same as we did on Caroline, to prioritize to inventory the trees and to prioritize what's at highest risk so that we can use our resources to the maximum effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I've not talked to Bartlett, nor have I talked to Nikki about if that was specifically what was asked for or where we are on that.
Yeah, so the last update I have is that the Bartlett was 90% complete, but again, they don't have the final finished proposal and assessment yet. And I know from her note, she reached out for an update yesterday to see if she can get an update before this meeting, prior to this meeting. And unfortunately, nothing has come through yet.
So, and you're probably referring to the email that Nikki sent out earlier today. And
Yes.
it looks like that was 90% of the Caroline Arbor care.
Correct.
So that's the care with that, not necessarily 90% done with the proposal for additional work, right?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then was anything mentioned about the GIS data? Because we still don't have that, or at least that I'm aware of.
Melanie, do you know? I'm not.
No, I'm not familiar with. You need the GIS data for the arbor care program?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Arbor Scope. It would have been called Arbor Scope that Bartlett provides.
Okay,
because what I see right now is that on the proposal they had, their original proposal, there was a list of numbered trees, but I really don't know
that's
what
right.
trees are. And I feel like we really want to keep a close eye on, so that we're effective on which trees we're addressing and where we need to go next. Unless we have that GIS data, we really can't tell.
So your concern is basically making sure that those trees that were on the list are actually like part of the area, not outside of it, right?
No, the concern is that we need the data so that we have knowledge of where those trees are that have been addressed. So they did a fair amount of work this past year, and they did a great job, I think. But I don't really know what was pruned other than what I actually saw being pruned. And I don't know what was treated or, any of that. And I feel like we as a parking benefit district need to have that information, because this is public money and we need to be able to validate how it's being spent. And also for my primary concern is strategic planning.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think we need to take that one back and find out, because neither me nor Melanie are really up to speed on that one. So my apologies for that, but we'll get some information on it.
Oh, no
Yeah.
apologies necessary.
Yeah.
And
Um,
Gillian's taking notes to follow with Nikki on.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So in terms of, we don't have a quorum. I don't know where, I guess it's still summer. We can't take any actions, but as soon as we have that proposal, if these are thoughts from the management district on other projects, it would be great to have details on those opportunities along with the proposal from Bartlett, so we can define where we think the priorities are and be strategic about how this money is spent. And also, I think the thing that we probably want to consider is, do we want to use all the money every year, or do we want to hold some back for matching opportunities? So I think that's something the committee needs to consider.
yeah.
So you're saying the project proposals, you want like a detailed scope, knowing the locations, the complete cost, to see where, like Kyle said, if you're gonna have an impact, or it's just gonna be a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, okay.
Is that right, Kyle? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, so basically, going back to, like you said, strategizing how we're doing these things. And so, I mean, if there's, if it makes sense to do less that has more of an impact rather than more that has less of an impact, depending on what the project is, I think that's something we should know for sure. And, do we focus everything on Caroline? I mean, like that's one of the things that with the Caroline Promenade, it's like, do we just keep feeding it until just, at a snail's pace, we finally will get there and get the Caroline Promenade done? Or do we, look at the entire green grid, or we've got to ask ourselves some of those questions too.
That's
Yeah,
a good question. And sorry, Kathleen.
go ahead.
I think that it's either focus on Caroline or focus on a specific type of task, whether it's arbor care everywhere or softscape maintenance, like one of the categories, and do a deep dive into the category. Because there's just too much probably for what our financial capabilities are.
Yeah.
Right.
To really make an impact across the board and in each category.
Yeah, and I also think on sidewalk repairs, I guess it takes forever if the city does it, but there are sidewalk repair opportunities. I mean, I look in front of the Clayton Library and I think, my gosh, shouldn't that sidewalk be ADA compliant? And is that not a city responsibility? So how do we approach the city, and who do we approach? Is it the library system? Is it Public Works on, bringing that sidewalk up to snuff? Because that's an entire block. And then the second question start getting into sidewalk repairs, the historic grid, what is the width that will be required? And I think we're all for wider sidewalks, but some places they just don't fit.
Yeah.
So I think that those are some pretty big questions in my mind.
Yeah. And I think the point that was just made, luckily the benefit district is bringing in some good funds, but there isn't enough to cover every single thing, obviously, in that large of an area. So I think some focus will eventually need to be made on what makes the most sense and what makes the most impact right out of the gate. Obviously, you don't want to spend all your funds in one go around. It's always good to have a little bit of backup just in case something does pop up that you need those funds for quickly. But yeah, I think eventually a focus would have to be made on one of these and get it out of the way that makes the most impact to the area.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm hearing the same from Kyle and Amy as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, and speaking of things that could pop up, I mean, like depending on how much longer this drought's going to go on, I mean, it might be a serious thing to have to consider, like watering the trees. If we're spending all this time and effort on the arbor care in the neighborhood, like, you know, are we going to not just water end caps, but water all the trees that are within the public realm?
Yeah, the trees, I almost think the trees are more important to water than the end caps. And
Yeah.
I didn't know they were irrigating the end caps, so that I appreciate that, but it'd be good to have a conversation about that.
Hopefully, I think I read somewhere that there's maybe some rain in the forecast next week, Kyle, so maybe that helps.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
I'll if you're like me, I'll believe you when I see it.
Right.
Go out and do rain dances.
We've been promised before, but seems to never work out. Okay, any other thoughts around projects and project proposals in general that you'd like for us to hear about?
And no, I think from Museum Park Super Neighborhood side, we have been focused on arbor care and of course always sidewalk safety. But I almost think we might have a conversation with Public Works. Do they have a plan to rebuild any of the streets in this area? And because the ramps are in this area are not compliant either. So come to oxymoronic, had to have a tourist destination that can't get around in.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some ancillary or not side conversations, but other conversations with different entities that we need to investigate before we'll want to take on a sidewalk here and a sidewalk there.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Okay.
So what would the timeline be to get proposals on the softscape maintenance and minor sidewalk repairs? Does anybody know?
I think we can certainly reach out and see how fast we can get these in. Melanie, do you have any idea?
Probably Jillian.
Yeah, I'll follow up with Nikki and Jillian
Yeah.
to see and see we can have something more concrete for the October meeting.
Huh.
October.
If we get it, well, we normally meet every other month, so I don't know if you want to.
It's a bit of a lag.
Okay.
I know we don't want to clutter our calendar with meetings, but maybe they could, the management district could get those items to us within the next maybe 30 days.
Okay. All right. I'll follow up on that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that would be helpful to have is a year-end financial statement from the management district on what, you know, we know what Bartlett proposed, but what exactly was completed and how was it an itemized, just a financial statement, year-end financial statement, so that we can archive it on the super neighborhood side as well and have those records, those financial records.
I think the super neighborhood would have to do a PIR independently.
Oh,
with
what?
that, a public information request. Because the city doesn't have their financial records.
Yeah.
No, I'm not asking you to do that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think that's to me, that's the responsibility of the management district as part of this management task.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not asking you to do that. But I would think that just a fiscal accountability that that's something that the management district and the super neighborhood should have. How do other parking benefit district handle the accountability side?
Well, for Washington, we manage, the
Yeah.
we're the financial manager. I think Midtown and Museum Park, I'm not sure of the requirements that's required for management districts for posting those type of things. I know you're subject to PR, public information requests, but I don't know the requirements for publishing it for a management
Well,
district.
Yeah, I'm not so concerned about publishing it. I'm concerned about the accountability of the Parking Benefit District Committee in being able to validate where money is going from that's transferred to the management district. How's
Oh,
that
that
money?
would be,
So Kathleen, are you asking what happens with the money once? I'm pretty sure, I mean, the money that flows from the generation of the meter revenue, obviously you know where that's going because that gets sent to you to the PPD. But then are you asking what happens if you, for example, if you just say, okay, here's $10,000 to the management district, you want to know like a breakdown of what happened to that, and right?
Well, I think so. Any amount of revenue that's transferred to the management district, we should have information on how that money was spent. We should have just a year-end financial statement, I think.
oh, okay. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we generate that, yeah.
Well,
Cause
it's-
we give a monthly budget of what's been expended and not been expended.
no, I don't think I'm being clear. Kyle, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think that Nikki had made it clear too, the management district was going to keep everything in a completely separate account and to be able to report on these things too. At one of our meetings, Nikki had very, very much said that it was all going to be kept separately in a way that it could be reported on. So I think, so like what Kathleen's saying is just I guess it's really the transactions and statements from that single account, not for the whole management district. We don't care about that. Just what was,
Right.
from the PPD, that was the PBD account that the management district is managing, what transactions took place there.
Yeah, just a fiscal year accounting, basically, financial statement. And not from the city to the management district, but from the management district to project expenditures.
So going back to the earlier thought, is that something that you guys would request from them directly via PIR, or do you want us to? Because I think what Melanie is saying is, I don't know if we can get anywhere asking for that stuff from them, unless there's a PIR that comes through.
Well, Jillian, do you have any thoughts on that? Because I thought Nikki said she would generate a end of year financial statement from the management district, and I haven't seen that. I don't know if Jillian's there.
Yes, I'm here. I'm having connectivity issues. However, I am taking notes of everything, including the request for the financial statement, and all of that will be provided to Nikki following this call so that she can get back to you at your convenience.
Okay, perfect. And I just think that to me, that's a best practice for the Parking Benefit District Committee to have a year-end financial statement on how money has been spent. I think we need that.
Yes, ma'am.
Amy, do you have any ideas on that? Any thoughts?
No, but I agree that we should have it, and I'd be confused if a PIR was required for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it would be, since it's kind of our money, but
Yeah.
I would think that would be something that the management district would generate as a best practice, so that expenditures are clearly documented.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but at this point, since there's been no expenditures.
Right, there's not gonna be, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but there were last year, the Bartlett work.
Oh, there was? Okay.
And
Yeah,
And I would say even if there are no expenditures, just to have on file
Yeah.
the year-end financial statement on, you know, that we can just save and just show the money's been received, even whether funds have been expended or not, I think would just be a good practice to have.
Okay.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Before we move on.
no, I feel like we're, maybe if the management district could give us some sort of a timeline on, so we can start making some decisions
Okay.
and anticipate when we could see this information.
Sure. And I think you mentioned we can try to get it to you within the next 30 days, right?
That would be awesome.
Okay. Okay. So this is it. I think the next meeting is in October, Melanie,
Yes.
Yeah.
Third Thursday.
the third Thursday in October. Anything else that anybody would like to share? This open forum.
No, I think from my end, I think we've discussed everything, but it's the sooner we have the details, you know, the proposals from the management district and try to nail Bartlett down, we can start planning for this fiscal year instead of getting to the middle of the year not knowing what we're doing.
Sure.
Yes, agreed. If we can do some interim work between this meeting and the next meeting, between, you know, on the proposals and the financial statement, so that we can come in at the next meeting and make some, especially if we have a quorum, then make progress.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. We'll do our best to turn this stuff around to you guys.
Well, some of it's you and some of it's the management district.
Right.
Thank you. And if there's, Jillian, if there's anything that we need to ask the management district for directly, just please let us know.
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further comments, this meeting is adjourned, and the next meeting is on the third Thursday of October. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Thank you all so much for ushering this parking benefit district into early, it's juvenile year.
Yeah.
I feel like we're in our infancy, kind of somewhat finding our way. So
Yeah.
thank you for your guidance, and thanks to the management district for all that they're doing to help us get this launched effectively, so that we can be an example and a shining star for the city, and to show that these really work and how effective they can be for the public realm.
Well said, Kathleen. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all very
Thank
much.
you.
Stay
Appreciate it.
Have a
cool.
good day.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.